Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. I'm coming to you from Akron, Ohio. We are visiting with EarthQuaker devices today. We had a tour of the factory earlier, and now we're sitting down with Jamie Stillman, the founder and president of the company, correct?
Correct.
Great to see you.
Good to see you.
It's a kind of blustery day here in Akron, but
Yeah.
we're having a good time. We're in your original building, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm kind of curious. You know, I have bought a lot of boutique pedals over the years, and I remember talking to one guy when I ordered a pedal. He was literally soldering on his kitchen table. Is that how EarthQuaker started?
It is, in a way, how EarthQuaker started. So I would say 2004, 2005, somewhere like that, is just I just started building pedals for myself, a couple here and there for friends in my office where I was doing graphic design.
Okay.
So working for a printer for a medical supply packaging company, doing freelance design. And in all my free time, I was just building pedals, learning about it. So yeah, started just in an office. I never worked on a kitchen table, though.
No?
I did work in a friend's basement. That's about it. That's as close as it gets.
Right. So how did the company develop then? You had made some pedals for yourself primarily, some for your friends. When did you move away from your office desk and start building the company? Or when did you decide to actually form a company and do this?
I never did.
Never did?
Never did decide to form a
coming.
company. It's still happening. No, it just kind of grew. Yeah, I never intended to start what EarthQuaker became. It just sort of evolved over time. I had put some pedals up on eBay, I would say 2006. It generated a little bit of interest, but I didn't really start picking up sales until, I would say, early 2007. And then once it did get a couple consistent sales, it just snowballed from there. It went from like 3 a week to 5 a week to 10 a week to 20 a week. And then it was like, oh my God, I've got a pedal company.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it officially became a business in 2008, and I hired the first employee in 2010. And I mean, from 2010 until now, we're, at one point we were over 50 employees. Now we're right around 50. I would have never imagined in a million years that this is what it would become.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that has to be a big leap to take it from it's just you and you're kind of doing it to hiring that first person has to be a big leap.
Yeah, it definitely was. I feel like I mulled over that for a very long time. His name's Jeff France. I call him Fedge because I've known him since he was 14. And he is currently our production manager, but on his first day working, I was like, I don't know how much I'm going to need you. I'll say like 2 days a week. I don't know if I can afford to pay you. And at the end of the first day, he was like, you need me full time, I'll be here. And then from that time on, he was in the basement 14 hours a day, Monday through Friday.
Right. So you moved out of your office desk to the basement?
Yeah, I actually had gone through 2 basements. So I had this one office, then we bought a house, and I had a little shop down there, and that's primarily, I just work by myself down there. And my wife, Julie, who is, she runs the company now, she's the CEO, she would come home from work and assemble the pedals, just like put the switches on and get everything ready to be wired up. And, technically she would be the first employee, I guess.
Right, yeah, right.
And co-owner of the company. And then we moved from there within 2 years into the house that I currently live in. And part of the intention of moving was to find a house with a big enough basement that multiple people could work down there. That's how far ahead I think I thought
that's pretty
about that. And within, I would say, what was it? I worked out of that basement for 4 years before we moved into here, which is our first shop outside of the basement. Now our recording studio.
Right, so you've kept this original building.
Correct, yeah.
Where you're at here, and you've got the band rehearsals here, your band relaxer rehearsals here, and, but you've got another facility just 2 minutes from here.
Yep.
Where you now have the production line and things. So talk a little bit about that development. It's easy to look from the outside and say, oh, they did this and this and this. But that journey has to be a little bit more involved than that.
It was, I think, very involved. I mean, for me, it's kind of a blur, and it always feels very natural. We never put an ad in a magazine. We never took a banner ad out. We didn't do anything until 2012. So it was all word of mouth. It felt like a natural growth. I feel like just from talking to people, the way it looks is like there was one phase and then a huge jump to the next phase, but it wasn't. It was very, very gradual to me. But really, it just involved deciding I wanted to do it and then dedicating all of my time to it. So personally, I was working crazy hours. None of them were consistent. I'd work from noon until 2 a.m. and then, sleep for a little while. Or 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then sleep and then get up and do it again. It's just dedicating pretty much my life to that, as much of it as I could.
Sure.
So for me, that's what it was. And then as we, grew and like started getting more consistent sales, and I'm not a businessman. I play guitar and I like to make sounds with it, and like all of my knowledge for running a business came from what I did prior to this, which was I toured in bands in like the 90s to the mid 2000s, and I ran a punk rock record label. And it's like, I know enough business so I don't have to work for somebody else. So I think really for me what it took was just to know when it was time for me to give it up. Like let other people take control of things and just focus on the things that I like doing, which is really what, about 2012, Julie came in and took over the business full time. So that kind of took a lot of that out of my hands, and she is really good with the organization and all finances and everything, and like, running a company. None of this is stuff that anybody who works at EarthQuaker had any real experience doing, so we kind of like grew with it as people,
Right.
like knowing how to be managers, knowing how to, just be business owners, accountants, all of this stuff. And we try to do all of that in-house as much as we possibly can ourselves too. And I mean, it just kind of falls into the type of personality that we all are. We like to get in there and figure out how it works, come up with our own ways of doing it, and just get it done ourselves without, trying to follow a standard path or have all this outside, help, really.
Right, right. So more of a trial and error kind of a process?
For me, a lot of times, the longer that we've been in business, the more thorough we've gotten and analytical, I think. And, we collect a lot of data on just our sales and, how we operate, and we know what we're capable of doing and what we will be capable of doing in the future just by analyzing what we've done in the past. And, I mean, we have a lot of really great, hardworking people who work for us who have, we couldn't do any of this stuff without them.
Sure,
So,
sure.
the ideas for the pedals are only half the battle.
Right, right. There's all that stuff that you don't see and you don't think about when you open the box and you pull the pedal out of the bag and you check it out. What do you do with all of the plastic packaging material that came with the components?
Right,
What do you do with this scrap that you cut off this component? What do you do with the solder?
Exactly.
That, all those. I mean, those are just minor little things, but it's also just the organization of the flow of a production line and all those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff, a lot of what we do right now is kind of set in place by me just from when I was doing it myself. It's like, okay, I know that if I put 20 enclosures out, putting the bezels for the LED on 20 of them all in a row is faster than just doing this all one by one. So it's like we form these ways of assembly and we refine them over time. And, as we make changes, it's a learning curve and we figure it out. Some of the stuff that you said, like I don't think a lot of people really even think about when it comes to, they look at a pedal and they're like, why does it cost so much?
Right.
Like, you have no idea like how much goes into a product and like how little profit there actually is to hand make something in the United States today. It's very, very expensive. We make very little profit, actually. It all goes right back into the business and it like keeps it moving. I mean, people would be shocked at how little profit there is on an actual product because we want to make them by hand in the United States and employ people locally. Give them a good job with health insurance and benefits and do all of the stuff that, I think being a good company would entail. Sure. And, we do recycle all of our scrap, like our drill shavings get recycled, all of the packaging that all the parts get shipped to us, that stuff all gets recycled. We recycle our water responsibly from cleaning. Don't pack too much inconsequential paper and stuff in the boxes, but just enough that like it gives people kind of the vibe that we're trying to give them. So just taking all that stuff into consideration. There's so many moving parts to that, but as we grew, we were able to hire more people who could specialize in one certain area.
Right.
And without them, like I said, we couldn't do any of this stuff.
Right, right.
Yeah.
One of the things that's impressive about what we saw when we were checking out the factory is, or the production, I don't know what you call it, the production workshop or shop, is the attention to detail and how much of it you actually do in-house. You're not sending this out to third parties and bringing stuff in.
No, there's some stuff that gets sent out just to keep mess down, really. We send out our powder coat. So we get our enclosures, which are custom-made enclosures, but like most electronic parts, they're just made in China. They're always made in China and they're imported to
Right.
the U.S. And at that point, that's when we take it on. But we drill out the enclosures in house. We send them out to a third party powder coater, and they're all in Akron or around here. And then they come back and we do all the printing in house, and then do all the assembly, do all the circuit board population in house. There's a couple pedals that we make where we use a CM, a contract manufacturer, for the circuit boards, because they're very elaborate circuits that required surface mount parts to keep them, in a reasonable size enclosure. And even that is done in Akron. It's a 10-minute drive from our shop.
Nice.
So, we try to keep as much of that local, even when it's out of our hands, to do
Right.
it in-house.
Right, right. There's the other aspects of it that, again, people don't see, is that you mentioned that you hadn't taken out banner ads or any of those kind of things. There's a whole marketing side of things,
God.
and there's a whole sales side of,
Yeah.
for a manufacturer also has to have a sales side. It's not just the retailer.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's very involved, and as we've grown, it's even over my head. I would never imagine that, we would have all of the people working in sales and especially marketing that we do have. Like, it's a full-time job to manage Instagram and Facebook and do things like that.
Yeah.
But I would just never think of it. It's not really in my wheelhouse. I know the message that I want to convey, and I know how I want to be presented in the world, and that's our branding. I mean, it's been the same since we started. It's a thing that I developed, and it's gotten, we've added onto it every year just a little bit.
Sure.
We haven't done any Burger King style makeover where you're like, ugh, what is that? But to just kind of just be out there all the time, letting people know what it is that you do and how you do it. I would say 7 years ago, I would be comfortable thinking, oh, everyone knows how we do this. But now, I mean, it's a different world. It's all technology driven. You have to constantly be reminding people, this is how we do this.
Right.
Every time we post a video, like how it's made, style video, like showing how we build pedals, people are like, I had no idea. And it's like, wow. I mean, we just have to keep doing it over and over again.
Right.
And, it's not just to be like, hey, look at us, we're doing it. It's just kind of cool. I think it's the kind of stuff that I would like to watch, and I think other people enjoy seeing it too.
So I think people have an impression of a pedal designer and someone who comes up with these ideas for some of these really interesting pedals and the graphics and things. But is that what you do all day long, or is your day different than that? What is the misimpression of what you do all day long?
My day is a mix of both. Really, I look at my time by seasons.
Yeah.
We travel about half of the year for business. I would say that might be one of the things that I just never anticipated.
Half the year you travel.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think a lot of people really know this, and some of it is a little trade secret, so I won't get too in detail.
Okay.
But before we go into any territory, we go to those territories multiple times, and we go to different cities, we go to different stores, we just see what's happening there to kind of get a sense. Because we learned that you can't just be like, I want to sell pedals in Japan, and then send all your pedals to Japan, do what you do in the US, and then be like, why didn't it work? You don't know the market. You don't understand the market firsthand. And because we like to get in there and do everything on our own, Julie and I go wherever it is that we're going into and just inspect it, see what it's like. And then we maintain those relationships. We visit all of our international distributors a lot, and we do trade shows and stuff like that. So yeah, I spend a lot of time traveling, and then in the in-between periods of traveling, it's just catching up.
Right.
I always spend a lot of time just emailing and seeing what's going on, fixing problems. There's a lot of fires, I feel like, that always need to be put out, a lot of little fires.
Right.
And the way that my years always shape up is there's a period from September to December that seems to always be open for me to work on designs. So I'm in the middle of this right now. I am the most prolific in this time. I could spend the first half of the year never touching a breadboard at all, or I'm just thinking about circuit designs, and then when I have this big block of free time, that's when I get in there and do it.
Okay.
And it's kind of why EarthQuaker has become, we have such a vast line of pedals. I'm a little bit prolific. I would say 10% of the stuff I make actually even comes out.
Wow.
I don't know. tens, we'll go with tens, maybe hundreds of circuits that, I've even done boards for total layouts and gotten them and like, there's nothing that I find special about this. But, I would say in the fall, I spend a majority of my time doing circuit design.
Right, right. And you've told me in the past when we've talked that a lot of those designs you end up taking out and using with your band live. So they're kind of stage tested.
Yeah, almost everything gets, put on my pedal board for some period of time before I make that call. Like, we will put this out.
Right.
Very rarely does that not happen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So do all the ideas originate strictly with you, or do you get customer ideas that come in, or from different players you talk to?
I would say 98% of them are just my ideas, or at least start as my ideas. There are some. I have an assistant now, and I will give him an idea. He works mostly with DSP. I will give him an idea, and sometime he'll make a suggestion. That suggestion totally changes the course of it. Or with the Avalanche run, I work with a third-party engineer, and he had tons of input into that. And he's been a digital engineer for 30 plus years in the industry. Like, I trust him. Like, if he has a suggestion, I listen to it. But for the most part, they're all ideas that I had, or ideas that I could do to the best of my ability.
Right. Sure.
Which is, that's something that I think I actually really like about our products in particular. I like the limitation a little bit, like the limitation of my knowledge and how it gets put into a product, which then limits the user into these like specific parameters. As like the industry progresses and there's an urge to make everything a supercomputer, and the sky is the limit, and there's every possibility in the world, I don't find that to actually be creative. I find that to distract you from creating music. And they're more of engineers' tools than they are musicians' tools. And I like the limitation of my own knowledge for what it will do to kind of inspire you to play music. It's like you have these 6 controls, and that's all you're ever going to get. They don't do anything different. That's all they do. Go. Make music.
Right.
You have to open up a manual or a menu dive and things like that. And I would say if I had one like consistent trait of design, that would probably be what it is. Like working within my own limitations and imparting those limitations out to the user.
Right, right. Interesting. So I was talking to someone over at the shop earlier, and they were saying, I forget which pedal it was, but they mentioned that you had designed this pedal and then ended up writing a song for your band that you used for that pedal specifically for that song.
Yeah.
Something. Does it typically work that way, or do you hear a sound in your head and you say, I need a pedal for that, or where do the ideas come from? What drives them?
Both. That pedal in particular was the Nightwire. My band Relaxer had a song where I was using the Hummingbird and the Grand Orbiter at the same time, and then I also had to turn them both off and turn on like a fuzz pedal like that. It's like, it would be so much easier if I had some kind of phasing tremolo,
right,
where I could just get that out of the way. So I made that first. I was like, this actually sounds great. I think other people would like it. So that is how that one came about. A lot of things just come from me, just thinking of a sound and coming up with some way within my ability to make it. And then some things are like ever evolving. Like the Bit Commander was made before the Organizer, but the end idea was sort of a combination of both of them. So it's like I learned things from the Bit Commander that I put into the Organizer, and then that will kind of tread into something down the line. So I'll run across ideas while I'm making other pedals, remember them, and kind of that will be the building block for something completely different, but it's just something I came across when I was working on it. So it's kind of ever evolving.
Right.
Rarely, almost if ever, do I use general market research or like customer request for product design.
On the other end of it, are you often surprised by what people do with the pedals that you put out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that I see on YouTube or just see bands doing live that I would never think,
right.
this
I didn't even know that pedal did that?
Yeah, this would be a good idea. I mean, a couple examples I have of that. I pretty much exclusively use our Rainbow machine for chorus now. I never really thought about that while developing it, or for the first couple of years until I saw a video of someone doing it. I was like, this sounds amazing. And then I developed like my own way of using that chorus and the general functionality of the Rainbow machine together to make something interesting. Terminal fuzz, is, for a guitar, it's just a really destructive fuzz sound. But the first time I heard a synthesizer through it, I was like, whoa, I had no idea it could sound like that. It's a completely different pedal with the synth. So yeah, I get surprised by those things all the time.
That's got to be fun.
Yeah. So I mean, even though they're developed with like a player's mind, a lot of times I find I know them too well. I know the circuits inside and out, and I'm really just thinking about the parts that make it up until some amount of time goes by and I'm just comfortable using it as a pedal.
Right.
So for like the first couple years that a product is out, I'm just thinking like, oh, there's the filter section, the buffer, all this stuff. That's how it goes in my head.
Right.
Sort of a curse. So yeah, it's always nice to be surprised by what someone does with something when they have no preconceived notion of it or knowledge of the inner workings.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things that has impressed me with, we'll call it the boutique pedal industry, is that I think people see it from the outside and think, oh, they must all be really competitive with one another, and they probably actually hate each other. But there's actually quite a bit of certainly of friendships between the different companies, and I've even heard of ideas being exchanged and those kind of things as well.
Yeah. I'm friends with almost everybody that you could think of, I guess. Yeah. I would say, like, on a regular basis, I would talk to Robert Keeley or Josh Scott, Brian Wampler, Ollie from Death by Audio, Philippe. I don't know. I talk to all those people. I mean, most of us came from some DIY background, whether we know it or not. We've probably interacted on some forum, and I don't think any of us started this as business, really. So we're mostly interested in gear and playing guitar. So why not be friends?
Yeah, right. Well, that's awesome.
And you find like unlikely friendships, I think.
Right.
You just don't really have a lot in common otherwise, but it's enough to form a solid friendship.
Sure.
But yeah, I run ideas by Robert Keeley all the time.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's really great. That's awesome. Jamie, thanks for sitting down with us. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know it's your pedal design of year, so design time of year, so we hate to interrupt that.
Yeah.
We'll let you get back to it. But thanks so much for spending time with us.
Yeah, of course.
Today.
Thanks for
it's great to
coming.
see you. And thanks for hosting us here in Akron.
Yeah,
We've had
course.
a good time
Thanks for
visiting
coming.
EarthQuaker Devices. And thank you for joining me here in Akron. We're at EarthQuaker Devices, and I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.